Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Jesse Boland, and we're talking about SEO in the COVID age, which isn't really that much different than the pre-COVID age, other than the fact that I haven't had a haircut in 90 days. So I'm not going to share my video with you to save you from seeing that. I know that, this has been a really difficult time for a lot of businesses globally. So I'm excited to present this information to you and really kind of give you a framework to approach SEO and think through how to use it in your business.
But before that, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors: 36 Picks, Amidon Graphics, Marathon Press, Perfectly Clear, and Richmond Pro Labs. Thank you so much for contributing to the MVP 2020 event. And with that, Jesse, please take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. So what we're going to talk about today is SEO, or search engine optimization. So what I really hope that you take away from this is not the entire breadth of SEO. Like, that would take me several days to explain. But really, we want to dispel some SEO myths. Like, some people think that it's snake oil. Some people think that it's extremely hard or onerous. But I want to give you a working framework for SEO growth in your business. And I want you to understand why diligent research and planning your content structure is essential to overall growth of organic search in your business. So who am I? I'm Jesse. I'm the head of growth at Ironclad. We're building the digital contracting platform that powers the world's contracts. I've been doing SEO for 15 years. I'm actually an ex-hotshot firefighter. I broke my back on the job, so I kind of fell into marketing as a result. So I've spent my time building websites and marketing strategies for small and large businesses, from barbed wire fencing products, organic gardening tools. I was the head of growth at GoFundMe, the world's largest peer-to-peer fundraising site. I'm sure you've heard of it. But the common thread from small to extremely large is that most businesses struggle with SEO. They're confused by it. And I think that has to do with some of the stuff we'll talk about today. They see it as some sort of black magic, and my principle is it isn't black magic. It is logical and straightforward. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. My handle is Jesse Boland. So let's dig in. So the framework for SEO success, and here, it's very, very simple, but it's not easy. It takes dedication, it takes hard work. So what I want you to understand is that there are success factors. You have to understand that there's demand for your product. Too many businesses assume that people want what they're selling, so they just create the website that they want to create rather than the website that their market is demanding. So without doing your research first, that creates a fatal flaw. And one of the biggest reasons why so many companies struggle with SEO is that they create a business or a website that focuses on what they want to sell to people versus what the market is demanding. Second thing, building an action plan. So once you know what your market wants, you have to do the research and plan your site structure, tone, voice, content priorities, how you're going to convert people to become leads or sales for your product, and then your monetization plan, how you are actually going to earn money and profit. And then once you have these things in place, you have to focus on creating that website and not getting distracted by a lot of different things that will come across your purview. So what's necessary? You have to have hosting. You have to do the keyword research. You need to do content development. You need to set up the right site structure. You'll need analytics systems, and then you'll need sales. What's unnecessary is kind of chasing every rabbit that runs across your path. So shiny ball syndrome always leads to burnout and failure. There is no magic wand that I can give you. Believe me, if I could have invented one, I would have, but there isn't one, that at least it's as far as I've found. And then executing your plan. Once you have everything in place, it's time to execute like crazy. So what I'm going to give you are some of the first steps that you should take as far as setting up an SEO program. So distraction, again, is not profitable for you. The SEO market is set up to separate you from your money. It's meant to confuse you, to sell you stuff. In the 15 years I've been doing it, the principles of SEO have not changed. There's been a lot of technology advances. Google has changed their algorithms, but really the major tenets 15 years ago are still true today. There is no tool that makes SEO easy. It takes time, thought, research, engagement, understanding, and empathy to truly connect with your audience. So you have to become a part of the narrative that's happening within your market. You can't just mail it in. You really have to dig into what your market wants and understand the needs and what they're searching for. Focused execution of a well-laid plan is, and then will always be, the key to SEO success and really business success. And then next time you're contemplating buying a tool that promises to make SEO easy, think about all the big businesses that can't figure it out. I don't know how else to describe this other than to say, you can have all the budget in the world, but budget isn't going to buy SEO for you. So I love this quote by Steve Jobs. To me, ideas are worth nothing unless executed. They are just a multiplier. Execution is worth millions. So this is absolutely true. And I would take this time where you might have a lull in your business to really double down on your business model, how you create content for your market, and use this kind of reset as an opportunity versus kind of a detriment. And I know that, you know, it's hard to think that way when your business is struggling. So, but that would be my advice. So how SEO really works. So I use this CTPM formula: content, traffic, pre-sell, monetize. And most of the businesses I work with or have worked with in the past, they want to get to monetize as quickly as possible. But what that does is it short circuits the 3 steps before. So really thinking through the content you need to create, traffic, getting traffic, seeing the traffic come to your website, pre-selling that traffic, so using your voice and empathy to understand your market, and then monetization happens. So what does CTPM mean? Number 1, content. You develop content that matches the needs of your target market in a way that they understand that you get them better than your competitors. If you get your market better than your competitors, you will show Google the right engagement that Google will reward you for that. But you can't fake this. Traffic. So as you create and publish more keyword focused content, you will begin to see traffic come to your website. It will be small. And then as you repeatedly do this process, it will grow more and more. And so traffic is really a reflection of your authority within your specific market. That might be a local market, that might be a broader US market, that might be a global market. But ultimately, traffic is the indicator of your authority. Pre-sell, so if you're building content your target audience engages with, it will send those positive signals to Google, which will then increase your traffic. So once you see this, you know that you're on the right page and it's working, you need to keep going. A lot of people start to see positive signals and then they kind of stop. I don't know why, but they do. So really you need to double down as you see this process working. And then monetize. Once you have that steady stream of traffic, you can begin to test different ways to convert it to new sales for you, new leads for you, whether it's converting leads to new clients, marketing an ebook, or selling presets for your photography business. And then lather, rinse, repeat. So I'm going to go through 3 different things. And number 1 is tools. And I'm going to try and not talk about tools here. I want to talk about 2 and 3 during this webinar because the tooling part often comes off as a sales pitch and I want to avoid that. I want to talk about research and site structure. So understanding how to do the research is absolutely essential to your growth. And the first rule is if you don't get traffic, you don't have a business. Rule number 2 is good research plus good execution equals good SEO. So number 1 of this process is really building your site concept or putting the guardrails on your business on who you are as a company and who you are not. And so by carving out a really clear site concept, you will automatically begin to see different indicators in that business on how to kind of set up the dotted lines on the outside of your business so you're not focused on the wrong thing. So too broad and you'll get swallowed up by the greater market. Too narrow and nobody will be searching for what you're offering them. So the key is finding that sweet spot in the middle. We do this through initial keyword research. So right sizing your site concept, you will understand the supply and demand for the topics and keywords you will target. So what you're doing at that point is seeking understanding. So the profitability of your site concept, so you understand that there is a market there. And yes, they do want what you're going to offer. Understanding how to think through the monetization opportunities, looking at specific signals that Google will give you, other tools will give you to say, yes, other people are making money in this market. I can clearly see how I should move forward. And then how well your knowledge maps to your site topic. If I wanted to create a website about quantum physics, that might be great for me if I know quantum physics. However, I don't know quantum physics. And so trying to build a business around quantum physics is a very, very hard thing for me to do right now. So, and then the last thing is, how deep is your niche? How much content can you create to really address the needs of that market? And then the last thing, ignore this advice at your peril. I have seen too many people get distracted at the stage of, I see an opportunity, I'm going to focus on that opportunity, I'm going to do nothing else. Doing the research is absolutely essential. Okay, so the 2B, my opinion, keyword research is one of the most profitable skills you can learn as a business owner. So developing your keyword plan, you do vertical seed keyword searches and collect all the keywords related to your site concept. So there are tools that you can use, or you can go and use the Google Ads keyword finder to really dig into your market and figure out where you want to compete. Once you understand the vertical of your market, so it could be photography tips, once you understand all the different permutations of photography tips type keywords, you do horizontal searches to bring in keyword topics that are related to your core site concept, but do not contain that seed word. So it doesn't have photography tips. It could have SLR or, you know, developing concepts if you were developing your own photographs. And so once you have a whole keyword list, I built lists that had over 150,000 individual keywords. What you'll have to do is you winnow down and prune that list to about 250 to 500 total relevant keywords. A relevant keyword is one that you can create or write a high quality piece of content about. Once you have that list of 250 to 500 keywords, you can start planning the structure of your website. Excuse me. So thinking through your site structure and how you map it out. Going back, rule of thumb is keep the best, dump the rest. So if it's not totally pertinent to your site concept, I suggest deleting it. It's just going to distract you. You just want 250 to 500 total relevant keywords. That's it. So your site structure, once you have that list of keywords, you want to map out a fairly flat three-tier site structure. So understanding that, number one, your tier one is your homepage. This is where you basically invite people and introduce your site concept to them. This would be focused on your top tier keyword of photography tips. Then you map out your secondary keywords into what is commonly known as hub or pillar pages. These will make up the subcategories of your site. So they'll act as hubs or ways to distribute traffic that comes to your website into what is your tier three, or where the bulk of your content will exist. These will be the less competitive keywords, the keywords that not 100,000 people have written about, but maybe 100. If you're able to structure your website in a way like this, Google will understand that, number one, you're following their rules as they set them out. And number two, that, that you've carved out a very tight site concept. So what this will look like for a photography business. So our example at the top here, photography tips is your tier one. Your tier two is maybe manual or automatic, digital cameras versus SLR, portrait photography, still life photography, special effects photography. And so I've gone one tier deeper to talk about portrait photography. May have a piece of content focused on family portraits, pet portraits, baby portraits, portrait lighting, portrait posing. So you can see that the common thread here is not that this tier two is focused on photography tips, it's focused on an aspect of photography. And so portrait photography being a subset of photography tips. So you can see the common thread between this tier one to your tier three. And below I gave you another example, photography business. And this is much different because it's focused on all the aspects of running a photography business. So it's got small business accounting, professional photo software, advertising and promotion, professional photo equipment, photo packages, and sitting fees. So these are all related to running a photography business. It's not photography tips. Most of the time, people get distracted and they start talking about tips when they're actually talking about photography business. And that's where many businesses go wrong with SEO, is they see a demand because now they're following this data-driven path, but they get distracted and they don't stay relevant to what they're delivering. So underneath this, you've got web marketing, customer referral systems, car decals, or newspaper and yellow pages advertising. So sorry this is so short, but thank you so much for joining. And now we'll take some of your questions. You can email me at jesse.l.boland@gmail.com if you have any questions. And now we'll do Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that information with us today, Jesse. For all of our attendees, if this is your first time joining, we have a Q&A section down at the bottom there. You'll see the Q&A button. Go ahead and click or tap on that. Ask away your questions, and yeah, we'll get some insightful answers here. All right. Looks like the first question that's coming in is earlier you mentioned focus on your plan, don't get distracted. And some of the unnecessary things are the shiny ball syndrome. It always leads to burnout and failure. How do I recognize that I'm suffering from shiny ball syndrome?
I think the way to recognize when you're suffering from shiny ball syndrome is, are you doing high value tasks that are focused on that plan? And I only know this because I've fallen into shiny ball syndrome a billion times myself. I still fall into it at times, which is I'm doing low value tasks, or I'm doing air quotes research on the web, focused on something that's promising me what I know not to be true. So if I'm not focused on delivering high value to my business, I'm most likely suffering from shiny ball syndrome.
Excellent. And our next question coming in here is, what are some recommended tools for beginners to help them find those good vertical and horizontal keywords?
Some tools I use, number one is Google. Number two, I would recommend, the Google Ads. If you don't have a Google Ads account, then I would sign up for that. It's free. And so Google gives you all the tools you need to really do your own research yourself. What they don't give you is a game plan for how to use that tool. So I have some tools that I use. They are paid tools. If you want to know, please email me or connect with me on LinkedIn and ask. I'll send you what I use, but I don't want to steer you in one direction or another. I really would recommend the Google Ads tool if you're just getting set up, so you can really start to look at how Google presents information to you. And then really doing a lot of Google searches, looking at the recommended searches at the bottom of your search results will start to give you an idea of how Google understands a specific concept. So really starting to look at and really pay attention to, why do you think a specific website owns that keyword search? Why would Google recommend that site as the top result?
Excellent. And then earlier on that note, you mentioned about, when doing that research to find those vertical and horizontal keywords. Can you explain a little bit more about the differences between the vertical and horizontal keyword?
Sure. Sure. So, if I was Googling myself, and as I'm prone to do, a vertical keyword result would have my name and my last name in it. So it would be Jesse Boland. A horizontal keyword result for Jesse Boland would be ex-firefighter, SEO growth consultant, father, husband, brother, son. So those would be all the different attributes that make up the vertical of Jesse Boland. So it would be the related concepts of who I am as a person. The vertical would all contain Jesse Boland in them.
Perfect. And then while gathering those keywords, what advice do you have for studios that focus on a particular niche of photography, like maternity photography, or as an example, in terms of gathering their keywords?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in maternity photography, for example, you would do your vertical research focused on maternity, and it might ultimately show that maternity doesn't have as much demand as photography for moms or photography for pregnant mothers. So I don't know exactly, but ultimately what will show is the demand might not be for maternity photography. It might be for pregnant women, things like that. So that's where doing your research early in the process allows you to focus on finding the niche with the highest demand and the highest monetization factor for you. So that way you're not focused on a keyword where no one is searching. An example of this was my first big SEO job. I worked for a home improvement retailer, and they had a website that was focused only on selling faucets for kitchen sinks. And it was originally a British company, and so they named all of their faucets taps because in England, that's how they refer to a faucet. But in the US, nobody calls it a tap. They all call it faucet, but on their website, they had taps. And so by focusing on taps, nobody actually searched for taps. So they got a very small amount of SEO traffic. When we converted it over to faucets, it was like turning on a faucet. You literally just saw the SEO, the organic search increase because we were using that word in our content.
That's amazing. Now, as a studio that is just getting into really starting their search engine optimization and wanting to develop that action plan, how often do you recommend they revisit the action plan to make any changes?
I think, it's a very good question. I would look at it quarterly. I would look at, are the things that we're doing, are the actions we're taking, are they having the impact that we expect to have? And like I said, there are a lot of tools that will help you set up systems like that. I won't get into it here because we only have a half hour, but ultimately there are kind of projections that you can use to think through, are we following along? Are we seeing the results that we expect to see? If you are, after 90 days, you just double down. If you're not, maybe you have to look back. And if you're not seeing the results, then maybe you've missed a step or you need to really focus on a specific step. So doing the research first.
Perfect. And with that, it looks like we are unfortunately out of time. For those of you that did not get their questions answered, don't worry. We'll be following up with you after the webinar. But Jesse, I just want to thank you again on behalf of everybody for taking the time to come with us today to talk about search engine optimization. It was a pleasure and very insightful information.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for attending, and look forward to connecting later.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Stay safe and have a wonderful Wednesday.